All right. Well, welcome everybody. So this is our advanced tips and tricks for Rise Vision. So we want you to make the most of your digital signage, and we're hoping that you can learn something from this. Shay is our CRO, and he is going to be showcasing all of the great things that you can do. Shay has worked for the company for many years, I think in almost every position. So if anybody is an expert on the product, it's him. So Shay, I will turn it over to you to get started.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, welcome everybody. All right, perfect. Okay, so we want to make this interactive. There won't be a ton of slide decks. It'll mainly be sharing my screen. As Jennifer mentioned, I put a link in the chat. Definitely follow us on LinkedIn. If you don't already, we share lots of tips and tricks, customer stories, new templates, new features, all of that on our LinkedIn every day, snippets from training sessions. So it's a great way to stay on top of what's new and see content similar to what we're going to share in this webinar. I'd like a lot of this webinar to be driven by questions that you all have. So if there's things that you want to learn more about, or you wondered if it was possible, just put it in the chat or use the Zoom Q&A feature. If you have a question as we cover something, just pop it in there. We'll try and address it while we're on the topic at the same time. If it's unrelated, that's fine. Throw it in there and we can come back to it at the end of this webinar. But we really want the content to be focused on your questions. There are definitely many different skill levels at this webinar. So, what might be advanced for one person is basic for another. But our goal is really that you leave this having learned at least one useful tip. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in here. So I'm in a demo account here. This is my demo account. And I'm going to start with just talking about customizing presentations and starting from templates and creating something a little bit different. The ability to customize content is something we've gotten requests for to improve a lot, and we've shipped a lot of improvements in the last year or so. And so I want to make sure everybody is aware of some of those changes and just what's possible. I'm going to open up a presentation that I was working on ahead of this webinar. So this is a template that I created. And I actually started just from, let me open it up here, our full screen image template. So I started from this, just like a very blank canvas. This is what it looked like before I was finished. And so to create this design, this is like a kind of like a classic zoned digital signage design where you have a 16:9 box, and then you have a 9:16 box, so like a portrait box, and then just an image on the bottom here. And what I did is in the background, I used our Canva integration, which is a very handy feature, create a layout basically. So in Canva, I laid out how I wanted my presentation to look. So I just put these black boxes on a background image with like a blue transparent layer over top. And in Canva, what's nice is you can use the position functionality to get pixel perfect sizing and spacing. So in Canva, I created this first box here. And so this is 1280 by 720, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio. And when you use a 16:9 aspect ratio and embed templates or YouTube videos or Google slideshows and content like that in it, it's going to look really good because there isn't going to be any letterboxing or borders around it. It's going to fill the whole area. And then on the right-hand side here, I went 405 pixels wide by 720 pixels tall. And so this is a 9:16 aspect ratio. And what a lot of people don't realize is that most of our templates actually will work on portrait displays. So they're responsive. They'll adapt to the size of the container that they're in. And so if you put a container that's a portrait size in a template and put our templates in there, it'll look really good. And then on the bottom, I just put this long bar here for an image. So I'll just close that. Once I had that background image layered on there, I clicked this plus button. And from here, you're able to add components to the presentation. And so I added a playlist component and then dragged it to cover that black box. I added another playlist component and covered it to drag this box. And then I added an image component that I covered to drag this bottom box. And the end result of this is pretty nice. I'm not a designer at all. And this is what I was able to whip up here. So you can see I've got this weather template. So this behind me on the TV is the same template showing in landscape. And then what I have on the screen here is that template now adapting to that portrait size. And then on the left-hand side, I have our Canadian Labor Day. That's why we have the OU in it template, and it's cycling with some other content. Okay, so a couple questions came in the chat. What resolution should the background image be? So it depends on your displays. Most displays that you buy now are 4K. And so you want it to be, pretty sure 4K is 3840 by 2160 pixels. If you are using an older display, maybe it's 1920 by 1080 pixels, that's kind of like the older TVs were HD, and that's what that resolution was. Then if you set your image to be that size, it's going to look really good on the TV. All right. How do we use more than one Rise Vision stock video in a presentation was another question that just came in. So good question. So if you want to use more than one stock video, what you can do is go add, and then you're going to go to stock library and then stock video library. Pick whatever video you want. So I'll pick this one, for example. And so now that's going to go into this box here. Just wait a second for that to load.
Shay, while we're waiting for that to load, Kathleen asked a really good question, and I think we might have missed it from the jump from Canva to the final presentation. But how do you get, or she's asking, how do you get the embedded presentation in your template? So maybe we want to just cover that middle part.
Yep. So I'll start just from scratch. So this is how it looked before I did all that customization, right? And so what you can do is you're going to click this button here next to components, this green and white plus sign. And then from this page here, you're going to click playlist and then add and then presentation right here. And what this will let you do is select from any of the presentations that are in your account. And so you'll just pick whichever one you want. So here's one that I was working on, right? I can add that in there. And then you just want to click and drag that to be the right size. And so that's how you can embed presentations into your template.
So you're just using that Canva presentation or that Canva template kind of as like a placeholder for those embedded components that you're dragging and dropping. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm using the Canva presentation as like a layout, so I know exactly how I want those embedded presentations laid out on the template. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then Kathleen, to follow up on her question, is asking, okay, she's there, so she's picking up what we're laying down, but what if she wants a blank one? So do you mean a blank presentation, Kathleen? And then Joel is also asking in the same thread of embedding if we can embed Power BI reports.
Yeah, so good question, Joel. I'm going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes in a little bit more detail. So I'll come to that shortly. Okay, let me walk you through that here. So on this image full screen, I'm going to go into this background image, and we can just delete that and then design with Canva. And when you're designing with Canva, this default 16 by 9 is typically what you're looking for. Open that up. And then, you can put in your content, whatever you want in that background, and then layer your embedded presentation over top of that. Sounds like that answered your question. I appreciate that. So Tasha, to answer your question, unfortunately, not right now. Like, you can't see the dimensions of the embedded presentation as you're resizing it currently. That's a feature request that we've heard in the past and is something we're considering adding. That's why I like to use Canva to lay out those boxes and get like pixel perfect sizing, and then drag the box, like drag the embedded presentation to cover that black box. Is there a way to preview what it will look like before you publish? Yes, there is. So there's no like preview button in here. My workaround, what I always do is I go to schedules and I'll just create like a new schedule, right? And like maybe we can call this like demo or something like that, right? And then you're going to add your playlist item here. And so I'll add that customized one that I was just working on, add, and then save. And then here you can see a preview right there. You can also copy this link, and this lets you see it full screen, just like what I'm doing here. So you paste that link and put it in your browser, and you get to see a nice preview of what's going on there. And then what you can do is, as you edit this presentation and you click publish, you can then refresh this link and you'll see those changes as they happen. I just want to circle back on one of the questions about the multiple videos. So that finally finished uploading. Happy to see that. So this is one stock video. You can see it's playing right there. It's a landscape video in a portrait area, so you get the letterboxing right now. So this is one video added. If I wanted to add a second video, what I would do is repeat those steps again. So I would click Add, Stock Library, Stock Video Library, and then I would select whichever video I wanted. If I wanted to add a video to another area of the presentation, like maybe I don't want two videos to rotate in this box here, I just want two videos on the screen, what I could do is click Add, and then Stock Library, and then Stock Video Library. And then I can pick another one, and then this will upload, and then it'll place itself on the template, and I can reposition that however I see fit. Question about, can we duplicate a schedule? So we don't have the ability, there's no ability to duplicate a schedule right now. Unfortunately, you have to just rebuild it. Good feature request though, and we'll make sure that that gets passed on to our product team. For your use case though, Stephanie, it sounds like if you want the two displays to be identical, you might not need to duplicate your schedule. You might just want the distribution of the schedule to be on both those displays. So have one schedule that is showing on two displays. So let me find an example of that. So here I have this schedule called United States. And so it's showing weather, just the weather. And you can see here it's showing on two displays. So I have 3 displays in my account that are online. One has not been activated. And this schedule is showing on those 2 displays. And so that way they're showing the exact same content. It's identical. And that way you don't even have to copy your schedule or duplicate it. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad that that saves you a lot of work. Okay, so CJ Berry asked, can you add sound to your schedule? So we don't have a way to add like music as just like something that is constantly running to the schedule. But if your presentation contains sound and your TV has speakers that are turned up, it will play sound. Some things that I've seen people do that are interesting workarounds is they'll add like a video. They'll use like a zone presentation, for example. They'll put all their templates in it. They'll add a video to that, kind of move it behind something, and then that way there's sound always playing. But yeah, there isn't like a great native way to do that. Okay, let me jump. Patrick asked, can you go back and edit the template in Canva? Yes, I can. So I'm back in that image full screen. I'm going to click on the background here. And then right at the bottom, you're going to see this design with Canva button. This is always available when you're editing like an image in Rise Vision, which looks like this. It's going to have this little picture icon on the left here. And so when you're editing a box where an image should be, you're going to have a few different options. You can upload from your computer, you can select from your Rise Vision storage, you can select from the stock image library, or you can design with Canva. When you click design with Canva, it's going to give you a few options on like what you want, what size of design you want. I pretty much always use the 16:9 one, but it will depend on your use case. Then you're going to click design with Canva, and that's going to open up. And then you can, create whatever design you're looking for. And when you click save, it gets added into the presentation. So I'll pick something here. We'll just change this to say hello world. Click save, and then it gets added into the background there, just like that. All right. Okay, so yeah, you can go back to Canva and tweak it. So right here, once that Canva design has been added, you're going to see there's the little Canva icon right next to it. It's pretty small, but if you click that, it'll open up that editor again, and we can change this. So instead of hello world, I could say hello Patrick, and click save. That design's going to update now in the background once it's finished loading.
Great. Shay, we've had a couple people ask now about putting Rise Vision on the website. So Jennifer asked, can we add Rise Vision to our website?
Yeah, I mean, like the schedule link here, like you could link to that on your website for sure. And that gives people a way to see what's on the digital signage. I've seen some, like, it's common in education for sure, like in K through 12. they might have like, I don't know, let's say your team is the Huskies or something, have like Husky TV, and there's a link on your website that points to a Rise Vision schedule. And so the way you get that link, you go to schedules, we'll go to this United States one, click share, and then copy, and you'll just link to that from your website. And that way anyone can click it and see what's going on there. All right, I'm gonna keep moving a little bit because there was a question about Power BI that I want to address. That was came up a little bit earlier. In Rise Vision, we just released the ability to show Power BI, or sorry, not reports, dashboards. And there's an important distinction there. We only support showing Power BI dashboards currently. The ability to show Power BI reports is on our roadmap, and I believe it's planned for early 2025 or late 2024. Let me just see. Yeah, early 2025 is when it's currently planned. Our roadmap does change based on customer requests, but that's currently what's planned. And you are able to show Power BI dashboards. This is what it looks like right here. So let me see what else we have. Okay, I just wanted to talk about one other thing before I answer some more of these questions. So in this presentation, this is one of our most popular zoned presentations. I'm pretty sure it has the highest usage out of every other zoned presentation. And I only made like one little tweak here that I think is kind of neat. So I added an extra component to it. So same thing here on the components, I clicked that plus sign and I added a Google slideshow. And one thing that people sometimes don't realize is that in Google Slides, you can actually resize the size of your Google slideshow. And so what you do, like I always go to help and then search page setup. And here you can, instead of doing like your classic Google slideshow 16:9, you can do something custom. So this defaults to inches. I prefer pixels because it's digital. And so you can type in the pixel size that you want. So I wanted something that was almost like a square that I felt would look good right here in that top right box. And so what this is really nice for is like, I don't know, maybe you have like a meet the team or something like that, where it's a slideshow of all of your team members or an update from HR or something like that. And this way you can hand off, you can delegate the updates of that one little portion of your presentation to someone else at your school or your company. All right. Couple other questions here. Can we add the weather or time components to our custom presentations? So unfortunately, you can't add like a weather or time component. What I typically do when I want something like that is I add like the weather template like I did in this box here. I know it's not ideal. The ability to add like weather and time components and some of those other components is on our roadmap.
Okay, we might have to have a webinar all about Canva. We're getting lots of questions about going back and forth and creating templates there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of Canva
So
questions there. There was a
yeah, we'll
question
have to come
about
back.
play until done. And okay, so there's a
Yeah,
few
we got
questions
that one a couple
about,
of times.
yeah, how do you pull information from a calendar in a customized presentation? So Melissa, this is very similar to the request to add like time and weather components. The way to do that is you have to add another template that has the calendar in it. So if I wanted a calendar in that customized presentation, what I would do is I would search for calendar. I'd find a calendar that I like. So maybe I want something like this. And then once it's saved, I'll publish it. Always takes a second to save. There we go, publish. And then in my customized presentation, I would go into that embedded box and then I would go add presentation and then I'd add my calendar full screen right there. I'm just going to delete this video. And that's how I would add a calendar. One thing, just while we're on the topic of calendars, that's brand new. We now have the ability to connect to Outlook calendars. So this is brand new, just came out. I know a lot of organizations don't use Google. We've only supported Google for probably 10 years or so. So this has been a really exciting new feature that just came out a couple months ago now. All right.
All right, Shay, do you want to answer the question about, so this is from Andrew. It says, I would love to fully understand what it means to click off play until done when editing a presentation? Will multiple presentations continue to rotate, or will they stop when they come to the last one? Or is it better setting up a duration? We've had that question a couple of times.
Yeah. Okay, let me talk about that. Okay, so play until done. What that feature does is it makes sure that all of the content and animations in a presentation have finished before moving on to the next item in your schedule. So generally speaking, I leave it checked unless I only want something to show for a very specific amount of time. But for most content, you want to use play until done. Because, for example, looking at this calendar, like let's say I add 100 more events, it might take this calendar a minute to scroll through everything, right? So if I add this calendar to a schedule and check play until done, I know if I add 200 events or 300 events, that it'll always show all of those events before moving to the next item in the playlist. So it's typically like the default. I typically default to play until done. It's niche use cases where you would want to set like a very specific duration. I hope that helps answer that.
And then to add on to that, Andrew sent a follow-up question. If you have a static presentation, so no animation or video, what does the play until done scenario mean?
It's going to depend on like what the static presentation means. Like if it's a slideshow of images, for example, play until done will go through all of the images before it moves to the next item in the schedule. If your presentation is just one image and that's it, then that is kind of when you might want to use the duration. Like maybe you only want that to show for 10 seconds. And so you would uncheck the play until done checkbox and specify 10 seconds. Okay, there was a couple questions that were earlier that I want to just make sure we address. There was one about going from 5 to 70 displays. Okay, yeah, this is a good question from Chris. Is there a way to group displays to make it easy to add groups to a schedule? So Chris, one of the things that I like to do, let me just close some of these tabs, is it's all about like naming your displays. So I like to have a standard naming convention for my displays. So in my demo account right now, I have one sub company. So I have a parent company called demo account, and then I have a sub company called like New York City location. And what I like to do is for my displays, figure out a standard naming convention. So in this demo account, what I've done is country, state/province, city, and then location within a building. So if I look at this display, it's called United States, New York City, and lobby. And so what this allows you to do is in schedules, let me jump into schedules in my parent account here. I can add a schedule, and then in displays, I can select displays from all companies. And let's say that you were like a school district and you had 70 schools and you had TVs in your lobby, your cafeteria, that kind of thing, right? You could search and you have a schedule that you want to show on all of your lobby displays. You could search the keyword lobby and that would filter on all of your displays that have lobby in the name. And then you could just check all of those. And that way it makes it really easy to add these displays to specific schedules. Or let's say you had like, maybe you're a retailer and you have a promotion that's only available in the United States, it's not available in Canada. You could just search United States and then you're going to check all of those apply. And that makes it easier to group displays and add them to schedules. I hope that helps there. Okay, so Deb, you called out an improvement. I appreciate you liking that one. So Deb pointed out we released a new feature, sorry, that's in schedules, where when you have multiple items in a schedule, I don't know if I have any right now, but I can add some here. Save. So when you have multiple items in a schedule, you can click these buttons to flip through them all, make sure they look good. That just came out recently. That's a nice addition. But I also want to watch the display too. Can we choose that? So there, from the schedules, like this is just a preview of the schedule. It's not necessarily what's happening on all your TVs. To see what's happening on the TV, you want to go to the displays page and then you click on the display and it loads a live screenshot. And so this is what's behind me right now. So this is just a live screenshot of, or sorry, that's not what's behind me. That's in my living room. This is a live screenshot of that. Okay, Oren, you asked, we deal with a list of donors, 2000 plus in an Excel or CSV file that we want to create a space with a scrolling list, both horizontal and vertical options. What would you recommend is the best way to approach this? So, Oren, I would recommend our list templates for sure. So if you go to presentations and then content and list, this has a lot of different options. And a lot of these are scrolling as like all of these are scrolling as well if you have multiple donors. So I know that some people, they'll have like donor tiers and that kind of thing. So what you could do is like first name, last name, and they're a gold level donor, so tier, something like that, right? And what's nice about this list is if you have your Excel sheet or your Google sheet with 2000 donors, you can just export this CSV and then it's going to give you what the structure needs to be for your import. And then once you have all your donor information, you're going to click import and it'll add all of those donors to this presentation. And they'll scroll through really nicely. All right. Can you discuss a use case for the override feature in schedules? Yes, I can. So there's two types of overrides. There's override include, and then there's override replace. Override replace is when, like, the most common use case is you have a really important announcement that you want everyone to see right now or at a scheduled time. So think about like maybe you're a principal and from 9 a.m. to 9:05, you want every TV in your school to show the morning announcements. So then you might have an override and use the replace functionality. So that's what this schedule is set up for right now. So right now it's not showing on any displays, but if I click show on all displays, and let me just come in here. I'll select the displays from all my companies and click save. So you can see there, like it's gonna, in a couple seconds, this is gonna start showing behind me. So there you go. It's now replaced all of the other content. And so it's gonna replace that from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. So that's how I set this, but maybe, if you're that principal, what you would do is you'd come in here and you'd say, instead of from 1 to 2 p.m., from 9 a.m. to 9:05 p.m. So that's like a good use case for the override replace. For the override include, one of like the big use cases I see is maybe you are, a company and you have multiple locations that have digital signage and you delegate management of the digital signage to a general manager of each of those locations. And so the general manager is able to put stuff up on the TVs and they have control over it. Now, maybe headquarters wants to be able to show a message on those TVs as well, without interrupting what that general manager is doing. And so in that case, it's good to use the override include. So here's an example, right? So maybe the CEO at headquarters has an important message that he wants to share, but he doesn't want to like take over everything and shut down what those general managers are doing. He just wants to include his message into their schedules. And so in that case, you're going to use override include, and then you'd pick which displays you want to include it on. And now it's not gonna replace anything. It's just gonna go into the mix with all the other content.
Speaking of overrides, Shay, I think this would be a good time to answer Joel's question of what are classroom alerts?
Yeah, good question, Joel. So classroom alerts, so in Rise Vision, we have an emergency alerts feature. And the way that works, you can connect Rise Vision to your emergency management system via the common alert protocol. Oh, sorry, I'll just interrupt myself here. So William, yes, this will be recorded and available after, for sure. So yeah, you're able to connect Rise Vision to an emergency management system via the common alert protocol. And when an emergency is triggered from your emergency management system, Rise Vision will shut down what's currently playing. So this morning announcement would stop and that emergency message would show. Now, classroom alerts behaves a little bit differently. The use case for it is if you are in a school or an office or something like that, and let's say you have displays in your classroom or your meeting rooms that are not primarily used for digital signage. They're used for teaching or collaboration, that kind of thing. You can install Rise Vision on those displays and use them, for whiteboarding or meetings or something like that. And in the event of an emergency, the Rise Vision app is going to shut down that whiteboarding and show the emergency alert message. So that's the use case, and that's kind of describes what Classroom Alerts is. All right, any progress on a presentation that will show social media feeds? Yes, so that is on our roadmap. We are hoping to have that done, I believe, before the end of the year. It won't be Twitter, but it's going to be Instagram and Facebook. So social media support is coming in 2024.
It's October.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. As long as there's no problems, I think before the end of October. Okay, Ben asks, can we save templates for those sub companies to use easily if the manager isn't very graphic design savvy? Yes, you can. That is possible. So let me remember how to do this. So you're going to come into the template, click the three dots, and then save presentation as template. And that's going to make it accessible for your sub companies.
So Mila, Mila, sorry, that should answer your question as well. If there's a way to save a template as a custom template for you to reuse.
Yeah. And then just on the topic of sub companies, so Mitch asked, I haven't used sub companies before and I'm interested in creating one to better organize our departments. What's the easiest way to assign existing users from a parent company to a sub company? Or do I have to create another account for them in this new sub company? So Mitch, right now there isn't a way to move users from your parent account to your sub account. What you would do is just delete the user from your parent account and re-add them in the sub account. And when that happens, they're going to get an email invitation from Rise Vision saying, hey, you've been invited to join this company. Click this button to accept the invite, and they'll accept the invite and be able to join your sub company.
All right. Another question from Matthew about creating dynamic presentations. So we get this question, I think, quite a bit because we have all of those daily auto updating ones, like the quote of the day, funny joke or dad joke of the day. But is there a way to design those in Canva and then support them via something like a CSV file?
Yeah, so you wouldn't use a CSV for those. If you wanted to like DIY your own auto updating template or something like that, you wouldn't use the built-in Canva feature in Rise Vision. What I would probably do is go to Canva, create a design, go to that 16:9 design, and then you'd add in all of your slides here. So like I'll say apply all 10 pages, and then click share, more, and embed. And you'd copy the embed code, and then you would put it into the HTML embed template right here. This template, you'd paste it in there. And then that way, when you make changes in Canva, like you wouldn't even have to go into Rise Vision. You could just make changes to Canva, and you could do your animation and that kind of thing in Canva. They have some built-in functionality for that. And those changes would automatically reflect on the Rise Vision display. So if you want to like DIY an auto updating template, that's how I would do it. Michael, so we don't have a public roadmap currently. Our roadmap is definitely like a living thing. It changes frequently, and we hate setting expectations and not meeting them and disappointing people. So we try to share what we're very, very certain we're going to release, but anything farther out than, about 12 weeks becomes far less certain. And sometimes if we say we're going to do something and then a different priority comes up, it results in hurt feelings. Walk through the embed again. Yes, I can. So in Canva, I'm going to click share and then embed. So you would click more and then embed. And then here it's going to give you an HTML embed code. You're going to copy that and then you're going to go to presentations, type HTML, you'd add this presentation, and then you'd paste in the embed code.
Jay, is there any other content that you want to walk through before we get into our dedicated Q&A period? I know we've been answering a lot of questions as they come up, but is there anything else that you want to share?
There's just a couple other questions on that Canva from Matthew. So Matthew said, I need to manually update the Canva presentation each day if I want the same screen with a different fact. Yeah, so Matthew, if you want like a different fact on each day, that would be tricky because Canva doesn't have like the concept of a timeline. So if you added, like if you pre-added to Canva, 50 facts and had this design set to show like 50 facts or something like that, you could add the presentation, and I think the content would always look fairly fresh because people, when they walk past the TV, wouldn't see the design all the time. Alternatively, what you could do is like so Matthew said like it doesn't need to be Canva. What you could do is, in Google Slides or in Canva or something like that create content for all of your 50 facts and then upload that content to Rise Vision, and you would set specific dates that content would show in Rise Vision. So you'd add the content to the schedule, and then in the schedule here, instead of show all the time, you would say like, okay, show this on these days, show that on these days. It's not the best solution here, unfortunately, but that's how I would accomplish it.
Sounds like we need a customizable updating template for all these people who have.
I know. Yeah. All right. Michael asked, if I have a playlist with multiple photos, is there a way to set all durations to the same amount without going one by one? Yes, there is. So add presentation and then image. And what you want to do is select from storage. Sorry, no, I'm doing this wrong. You would want, sorry, okay, backing up there, Michael. You would want to use the playlist, and then so full screen playlist, and then within the playlist, you're going to add and then use a folder of images and videos instead of uploading each image individually. So upload a folder into your Rise Vision storage, and then that way, when you select the folder, so I'll add that. Now you get to show each image for X amount of seconds. So I could say show each image for like 3 seconds, for example, right? And that way, if you put 100 images in that folder, it's going to go through every 3 seconds or however you set it. Okay. And then Oren said, we will be using Rise Vision on a lobby screen at an animal shelter. We would like an option for our front desk staff to update a simple web or application that states the current wait time to see pets. Do you have a recommendation for this problem that would allow an easy way to update the wait time on the display without them having to use the Rise Vision editor? That's a good question. I don't have like a specific recommendation for like a queuing software or something like that, but you might want to look into like queue software or wait time software, that kind of thing. And then I would look for a solution that lets you embed it into something else. And because like a lot of software nowadays, like you can embed the content from it into other pieces of software, which is great. And then you would use that HTML embed to embed your wait time countdown or whatever it is and put that on your display. And then that way it could be updated outside of Rise Vision, but show on the Rise Vision display. So Patrick asked, is there a way to share content in storage with Subcompany? So not currently, Patrick, but that is a top feature request from our customers, and it's something that we are definitely looking into. And then Michael asked, when I used the folder of images, I had a problem where it was dragging in images from months previous. I was only able to fix it by uploading all images to the playlist individually. So Michael, if you're running into something like that, definitely contact our support team. So they're available at support@risevision.com, and they can look into it. If you're running into weird behavior like that, that sounds like a defect or a bug that we need to fix, and we can look into that for you. If you're inside the app too, I'll also just share with everyone, you can click this help button in the top right corner and click contact us. And this is a direct line to our support team as well. and they typically respond within 1 business hour.
Jay, I want to go back to this question from Ben. So it's talking about sub companies. When you make a template, are those shared with sub companies? And is there a way to lock down the templates available for sub companies to use?
Yeah, so when you create a template, it's not by default available to sub companies. You have to make it available by going into the template and then saving the presentation as a template. And that's how you can make it available to the sub companies. There isn't a way to lock it down completely.
So there's no way to lock so that a sub company has limited present or limited templates to choose from.
No, not right now. If you wanted content to show on sub-company displays that and you don't want them to be able to edit it, then that's a really good use case for the schedule include, because you can, from your parent account, add your content to your schedule and then select the displays from the sub-companies. And that way your content is going to show up on their displays, but they won't be able to edit it or change it at all.
Yeah, Ben, so that'll be to lock templates, it would have to be basically like an administrative process where you provide guidelines on what sub companies can use and what they can't use for displays. If you're worried about branding issues, I think that might be the
Yeah, and
goal there.
yeah, that's a request that we get as well, and it is something that we're looking at building out.
This is a basic question from Tasha, but what dimensions should the logo be saved as? So a school logo or a company logo, what's the best size?
There isn't necessarily a best size because some of the templates have the logos in different places and in different sizes. And I wouldn't want anybody to warp your brand's logo into different sizes. What I typically do is we have a lot of content in Rise Vision, and so I'll find templates where my logo looks best. A lot of organizations too might have a full color logo, a white logo, and a black logo. And so that way you can if it's a May the 4th presentation like this one on the screen here, maybe you want to use a white logo instead of a full color or a dark one because it'll pop better, it'll look a little bit better. All right, so William asked, we will have multiple displays running for different school buildings and departments in a school district. Is there a way to organize presentations in the CMS? I'd like to put full display presentations in one area and presentation elements, slideshows, videos, links, etc., in areas specific to the school they are associated with. So William, for that, I would really recommend our sub-company structure. And I'll show you what that can look like here. So here's a slide deck I'm just going to pop into real quick. So in Rise Vision, we have the concept of hierarchy. So if you're a school district, you can have a company at the top, that's your district, and then you have companies beneath it for each of your schools. And district IT can be users in the top level company, and they're able to access everything beneath them. But you can put your principal in school A, principal in school B, principal in school C, and they won't be able to edit each other's content. They're confined to their own companies. And that way there's no stepping on toes. It keeps it all very organized and separated while still giving district IT access to every in the network. All right. Now where are we? We're 9 minutes out from the end. We talked about, covered a lot of stuff today. Okay, there was another good question from Patrick about display control, which was on my list. So good. Thanks for reminding me, Patrick. So display control is in the display settings. So when you are in Rise Vision and click displays and then click on your display and scroll down a little bit, you can see display control here. And what it allows you to do is if your display supports and media player, sorry, two things need to support this. So display and media player have to support HDMI CEC. And when that's turned on, what it allows you to do is turn the TV on or off. So it's good for saving power and extending the life of your displays. So for example, if your display is rated for 50,000 hours of use, if you use display control, you can turn it off at 4 p.m. when people are leaving the building or something like that. And then you can turn it back on at 9 a.m. when people are in the building. It does it based on the schedule. And so you can set the schedule up here, this timeline So you could say like all day, every day, just depending on what you're looking for, really. So with the 7 minutes remaining, I wanted to, oh, sorry, one other question. What is the advantage of having the displays reboot daily at 2 a.m.? Can that get turned off? It can get turned off. I strongly recommend leaving it turned on. We find that displays benefit, like media players benefit from being restarted, clearing like the cache out, re-downloading the content. It's just helpful for maintaining the performance of the device. That's it. It's what I would strongly recommend leaving checked. Okay, so I do want to touch on, oh, one last question. How can I move displays from the main company to a sub company? Chris, so email support@risevision.com and they can help you with that. So we have that ability. It's not available to users right now, but they are able to help you do that. So we have a new feature coming very soon that is a little bit different than what we have traditionally done, and it is screen sharing. So it's the ability to use Rise Vision displays for teaching, collaboration, meetings, that kind of thing. And I just wanted to give a quick demo of what that looks like. So it's not available yet. It is coming soon. I'm showing a beta of this feature. So when you go to apps.risevision.com/join, it prompts you to enter a code. And now I need to get my screen sharing code. Let me just turn off this override.
Okay, while you're getting that, I'm just going to drop the link for the upcoming webinar about screen sharing. So if anybody's curious, you can join us on September 19th webinar as well.
Okay, thank you. There we go. All right, so on my screen, it's pretty far for all of you, but it's easy for me to see. So there's a little box in the bottom right corner with a code. And so that code is J4BC5Q, and my name is Shay. And so I can click Start Sharing. And now from here, I'm able to share my screen. And let me just make sure I'm sharing the right tab here. So I'm going to click Start Sharing. Oops, I broke it. Okay, there we go. Okay. So now I can share my screen. And so I'm sharing a slide deck right now on that display. And I'm just going to resize this a little bit so it's bigger. So I think you can see behind me there, I'm sharing a slide deck, and I'm just going to share the right window now. So this is the slide deck that I'm sharing on this screen behind me. And as I click through this, you can see the content behind me is changing. And so this is like a great feature for if you're a teacher in a classroom, or you're a company with meeting rooms and you're using Rise Vision on those displays. Now it is more than just a communication tool. It can become a collaboration and teaching tool. And we are going to have a few different options for this feature. So you'll be able to join using just a code, or you can have moderated sessions where, for example, if you're in a teaching environment, students can join, but a teacher has to approve them joining or is able to remove them from the screen sharing session if someone is sharing something inappropriate. And so this is coming really soon, should be available and for mid-September. And we are doing a webinar on it. Jennifer put a link to that in the chat, where we're going to talk all about this, share all of its functionality.
It's going to be
All right,
awesome.
and that takes us to
Great.
3 minutes left. It looks like there was one more question from Bree Ward about display control. Display control is not available with our basic plan. It's available in the advanced plan. So that might be why you're not seeing it as a setting. If you're interested in upgrading to advanced to access display control, you can email sales@risevision.com and someone from our team will be able to help you. All right, any other questions for the final 2 minutes?
Yeah, if you have another question, drop them in the chat. In the meantime, Shay, thank you so much for joining us for this 1 hour to share all of your knowledge. Lots of information being shared.